So today I want to talk to you about coconut flour. I'm going to try to keep this video as simple and to the point as possible. Now, over my years, I've had quite the experience dealing with coconut flour as a food blogger. For those that don't know, coconut flour comes from, well, coconuts. The process of it is simply by dehydrating the coconut and then milling it or grinding it into a fine powder. Basically, coconut flour is just coconut meat dried and milled or ground. When it comes to the different brands of coconut flour, it's where things get kind of interesting at. Because what I found is by going through different brands, the finer the coconut flour is, the better it tends to perform. Now I bought one brand. Now the coconut flour I had bought, it was super coarse, and basically when I put butter or water in it, one thing that coconut flour does is it's super absorbent. And literally the granules or the little bits, they literally just sat there and didn't do anything. It was completely worthless. What this tells me is that somebody making my recipe or any other recipe with coconut flour can come across this particular brand or this particular type of a meal and have that same issue. And they can think this is just terrible, but in reality, they just have bad coconut flour. A couple brands that I go to are Bob's Mills, Anthony's, and one that I'm using right now is Terracotta. I'm not sure, but I'll put it in the description box below. One thing I want to focus on is my specialty, and that's baking with coconut flour. Now please, I use that word specialty or specialist very, very lightly because I'm still a student of the game myself. But something I've always noticed with coconut flour, remember earlier when I said it's really dry? Well, it's dry because it's absorbing all of the liquid. And so what happens is people tend to add a lot of eggs in their coconut flour, and the only thing that does is it makes it taste like eggs, you know? And that's not very good. You know, if I have a cake or a pancake, I don't want an egg loaf, I want a pancake, you know? And then I see people using different liquids like almond milk or just water in general, and it does nothing for it. Because guess what happens? If you sit here and you get coconut flour and you make, let's say, a cookie dough with it or a bread dough, your dough may look great before you put it in the oven. But guess what? While it's in the oven, it's baking, and the whole time that coconut flour is absorbing all of the moisture, all the liquid out of it. And when you pull it out, you're like, dang, I put 2 sticks of butter in here. I put 6 eggs in here. Well, I'm not gonna use eggs because that's another story. But I put a stick of butter in here and it still came out dry. Well, that's because while it was baking, it was still absorbing all of the liquid. And that's a problem when it comes to moisture. When it came to figure out my coconut flour recipes, I turned to the paleo people. In my mind, I'm thinking every time, no matter how much butter I use, because I don't want to soak it down with eggs because I don't want it to taste like eggs. And essentially what you're doing is if you're using eggs and it's building moisture, and it's also building a foundation for the coconut flour. But like I said, it ends up taking over the recipe, and that's not good. Now my thoughts when I'm making it is, I don't want to add too many eggs. I want to add just enough eggs to keep it together. Next, I don't want to add so much butter. Each cupcake's 1,000 calories. Because at the end of the day, the more butter I add, the only thing that's going to happen is the coconut flour is going to get oversaturated and it's just going to pool there. And that's not going to be good either. Paleo people, what they do with coconut flour is they use bananas. So what's special about the banana that the paleo people have figured out? Coconut flour cannot absorb the banana. And what happens is the banana, the mushed up banana, brings moisture into the actual dessert, into the bread or whatever you want to call it. Now on keto, of course, you can't use bananas. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, what can I use that the coconut flour that can absorb, that can bring that moisture back into it? And it was like a stroke of, it was like, oh wow, cheese. I know it sounds crazy, but you know, so many people come to the keto diet because, oh, we just love cheese. And hey, for good reason. I love my cheese myself. Cheese, what else besides cheese? Because we can't use bananas. And I'm still working on a couple other things, but we'll talk about that later. Well, I'm in a test kitchen right now. Let me figure it out, and then we'll go from there. So essentially what happened when I make my coconut flour biscuits, I used the cheese as the base. It kept the biscuits moist. In a way, the cheese became the base layer, therefore when you put it into the microwave, let's say after it cooled down, the cheese would soften the coconut flour up, and then that way it wouldn't be as rough when you're swallowing it. Now, was it still dry? I'll get to that at the end of the video. But that's what I think is going to be the savior of everything when it comes to coconut flour. Simply finding something that the coconut flour can absorb and building around it. Now texture will come into play, and I'm still trying to figure it out and thinking about what can possibly be done. And honestly, at this point, I don't think you can receive a desired texture without adding some other type of flour in. Coming to the end of the video, I want to be completely honest with you guys. Now, although I've come up with all these tricks of the trade and continue to improve coconut flour, the best thing so far that I've came up with was my coconut flour waffle, if you guys have had it. It does wonders between flavor, texture, and everything, and my coconut flour biscuits. So when I sit there and I say they're good or they're better, doesn't mean they're as good as almond flour. And that would be a lie. Almond flour is easier to work with, and almond flour just has a better texture overall. Now, those two flours, I still think they're better off together than separated. So when it comes to texture, understand that coconut flour is naturally dry, even when you bake it. So when you add things in it to bring the moisture back in, yeah, it does bring the moisture back in, and it stops it from being so dry. That I use for my coconut flour cheddar biscuits. When I invented those, during my testing process, if I didn't have enough coconut flour, the biscuit would it's cheese, it would just go flat. And if I had too much, it would be super dry. So you have to meet somewhere along the line. If you guys can put it in the comment section for me, what are your thoughts on coconut flour with something like another starch, like tapioca starch or arrowroot, something of that nature? What are your thoughts on that? Now, I've seen people say things like flaxseed and stuff like that, and I believe it does work because, as I said, I can't see coconut flour being perfect by itself because I don't see almond flour being perfect by itself. I think almond flour is great, but I think almond flour is the best when there's a little coconut flour in it. I think almond flour is the best when there's a little tapioca starch in it. To end the video, I do want to say this much. I feel like because of paleo, keto, and just the whole food diet right now, or the ancestral style diets, I feel like we've entered a new era. And when it comes to, let's say, making the perfect cake or perfect cookies with cake flour or using all-purpose flour or something like that, these chefs in the world, these recipe creators, they figured it out to the T. There's a perfect way to do a cake, there's a perfect way to do a cookie. But see, because all this almond flour and coconut flour and these gluten-free flours, this stuff is new, people are still finding it out. And I feel like somebody like myself, being a recipe creator, we have a chance to do the testing. We have a chance to be able to change things and take something that isn't so great and make something amazing out of it. Pastries taste amazing. Have you ever took a spoonful of flour and just ate it? It's not very good, is it? But you can do something amazing with it. So I think there's still hope for coconut flour. As long as I'm here, I'm going to continue to try to figure out the best way to make it for you. My name is Darius, this is Sugarless Crystals, and thank you for watching.